My name's Elizabeth Withers, and today I will be talking about a theoretical approach to understanding the relationship between digital equity and health equity. Digital information and communication technologies, or digital ICTs, are becoming more and more essential for accessing important resources. This is problematic as many experience barriers to accessing digital ICTs. There are persistent gaps in access along demographic lines, such as income, education, and age. And many of those who experience barriers to access are also those who experience poor health. Many of these digital resources are important social determinants of health. So while digital access is increasingly becoming the avenue through which resources are accessed, some populations who experience barriers to digital access are also excluded from accessing those resources. In this way, digital inequality may exacerbate existing health disparities. Drawing on the work of Bourdieu, I situate Van Dijk's multiple access points in which what can be understood as the digital field and construct a framework for understanding digital inequality as rooted in the disproportionate distribution of capital, which leads us to a place where we can investigate the relationship in terms of fundamental cause theory and social determinants of health. Bourdieu's theoretical framework and conceptualizing of class inequality is useful for understanding digital inequality, and quite a few digital inequality scholars do draw from his work. First, his framework allows for the understanding that digital inequalities are structured by existing inequalities, right? This is really important because for a long time within the digital divide framework, there was this notion of technological determinism, and people thought that digital inequality could be solved with technology. But it's more complicated than that if we understand it in terms of broader social inequalities. Second, with Bourdieu's framework, we can unpack how digital access is related to access to resources. Bourdieu explains the production of class inequalities in terms of types of capital. So, economic capital refers to one's wealth, land, or money. Cultural capital refers to the types of knowledge or expertise, skills, habits, and tastes that people have, and which can be converted into economic capital. And social capital refers to an individual's network of relationships and contacts who offer advantages to that individual in terms of direct capital flow or opportunities to accumulate capital. And according to Bourdieu, one's class position is structured by the relative volume and composition of capital that they possess. Bourdieu explains the reproduction of class inequalities with his concepts of habitus, field, and practice. Of particular interest in this presentation is his concept of fields. Competition over different types of capital between individuals and institutions occurs in different social arenas termed fields. This is to say that existing forms of capital may be utilized in an effort to gain the capital at stake in the competition constantly occurring within a particular field. Here, I conceptualize the digital world as a field in which competition over capital occurs and is subsequently unevenly distributed to competitors based on the capital they bring to the field. I employ Van Dijk's multiple access model in order to consider the full range of digital access as it exists in terms of motivation, physical and material, skills, and usage access. Here, problems of accessing digital technologies gradually shift from the first two stages and kinds, if and when mental and material access have been achieved, to the second two stages and kinds of access, skills and usage. According to Van Dijk, the unequal distribution of temporal, material, mental, social, and cultural resources are of particular importance for digital ICT access. Now, I'm going to give a little more detail as to what each form of digital access entails, and as I do so, I'm going to highlight some of the ways in which each form or stage of access is structured by the amount and composition of capital one possesses. The first type and stage of digital access is motivational access, which can be understood as just the motivation on the part of the potential user to use digital ICTs. According to a 2018 Pew Internet survey, 11% of adults in the US don't use the internet. Many people lack the motivation either because they perceive digital ICTs to be irrelevant to their lives or because they're skeptical and have anxiety about or distrust for digital ICTs. For example, in her ethnographic research with 100 low-income adults in San Diego, Stanley found that relevance, fear, and self-concept were significant psychosocial barriers to achieving motivational access among new users and non-users. And actually, many expressed that these barriers were more formidable than cost. So how is motivational access structured by capital? First, economic capital will impact motivational access in terms of the equipment and connection available to access, which will have an impact on how people come to the decision of whether or not they want to access digital ICTs. Also, leisure time may be a mechanism in the sense that economic capital often translates into a time resource as it provides a freedom from spending time acquiring and maintaining the necessities of life. Here, economic capital may mean individuals just have the time that it takes for digital access to become relevant to one's circumstances. Cultural capital may also play a role. Here, motivation to access digital ICTs can be understood as a matter of taste because materials and applications available via digital ICTs are made by and for dominant culture. Those with marginalized class positions may find the content undesirable, irrelevant, or inaccessible. Stanley addresses this issue in her research with what she calls self-concept. She found accessing digital ICTs was highly dependent on whether or not an individual conceived of themselves as the type of person who uses a computer either in their professional or personal lives. She quotes one of the participants in her study who says, "I thought of it as a luxury, not a necessity. I didn't want to be part of that world. I don't want to be a rich yuppie. I thought I had no need for it." In terms of social capital, some research has shown that fear of embarrassment and just general anxiety about using computers was often overcome through social support. The second stage and kind of access, material and physical access, has received the vast majority of the public, academic, and political attention regarding digital inequality. Material and physical access is generally understood as being able to access a computer with internet connection. Economic capital plays a clear role in shaping an individual's level of material and physical access in terms of whether and to what extent people can afford this access, right? The type of equipment we have and the reliability of our connection makes a real difference in determining our level of access. And although many Americans do have access to computers and internet connection from their homes, many rely on gaining physical and material access at public computer labs, the homes of friends and family, and at work or school. So this is structured by capital in terms of gaining access via work or school, and in terms of social capital, in terms of those who are gaining access through those relationships they have with other friends and family who have the access physically. Skills access is the third type and stage of access in Van Dijk's model. Skills access refers to the different kinds and skills necessary for utilizing digital ICTs. There are 5 kinds of digital skills. First, operational internet skills refers to the basic set of skills for using internet technology. For example, the ability to open a browser, visit a specific website, entering its URL, using search engines properly, and filling out and submitting internet-based forms. Formal internet skills refer to the ability to navigate and the hypermedia structure of the internet. For example, using hyperlinks properly and in general maintaining a sense of just like orientation and when navigating within and between websites. Third, information internet skills refers to the ability to obtain desired information on the internet. For example, choosing a site from which to search for information, creating appropriate search queries, and selecting and evaluating the information found. Strategic internet skills refers to the ability to use the internet to achieve one's goals, particularly goals having to do with improving one's position in society. And lastly, communication skills have been recently added to the model as networked online media continues to expand as one of the most popular forms of online engagement. So how is skills access structured by capital? In terms of cultural capital, level of education may determine one's level of skills access, right? Computer skills training has become a part of school curriculum. However, Bourdieu notes that what one gets out of education depends on the capital they come into the field with. Here, the cultural capital of the child's family, for example, the digital literacy skills or attitudes toward technology that they possess, may shape what level of skills that the child acquires. Children who grow up with a computer and internet in their homes are at an advantage when it comes to skills access because research has shown that these digital skills are often learned informally at home as it's embedded in one's life. This is likely true for children and adults alike. Individuals who find themselves in environments where digital ICTs are being used fluidly and on a frequent basis may be at an advantage in their ability to develop their own skills. An individual's cognitive ability to learn and problem solve or their level of traditional literacy may also be an important form of cultural capital for skills access. In terms of social capital, having relationships with people with higher levels of digital skills may affect one's level of skills access. Here, we're just talking about whether or not you know someone who you can call on for support when you're using digital ICTs. And then, of course, the quality of the support that they can provide you with. Usage access is the final stage and type of digital access. Usage access has to do with the degree to which digital ICTs are actually used and for what purposes. I think this stage of access offers some really useful nuance to the model because here we are talking about a distinction being made in the way digital ICTs are used once the first three stages and kinds of access have been achieved. The assumption being that not all digital ICT functions are equal, that some may be more beneficial to the user than others, and that those benefits are not uniformly distributed among those who have attained the other forms of access. There's a huge range in types of digital activities. These include information, news, personal development, social interaction, leisure, commercial transaction, and gaming activities. While some of these may be more active and creative, there are a number of digital ICT uses that are primarily consumptive or for entertainment purposes. Again, economic capital may determine quality of the equipment and the reliability of the connection available. For example, some research suggests that the type of device used to access the internet affects the types of activities users engage in, such that those using computers are significantly more likely to participate in capital enhancing activities than those using mobile devices. Some research has found that individuals with higher levels of education tend to use digital ICTs for more beneficial purposes. So here we're talking about the ways that cultural capital might also determine usage access. So how does this relate to health? According to fundamental cause theory, some social conditions should be considered fundamental causes of disease because they can shape an individual's access to vital resources that are essential for avoiding risks and for minimizing the consequences of illness should it occur. These are resources like knowledge, power, prestige, as well as more interpersonal properties such as social connectedness, which are similar to forms of capital in that they're flexible and can be used in many different contexts and situations. Here, my claim is that because access to so many of these types of resources is now occurring largely through the digital field, digital access will affect health outcomes. For example, research has thoroughly demonstrated that education is a significant predictor of health across a variety of health outcomes. Digital access may become increasingly important for accessing educational opportunities. Like digital skills, you can imagine how important it is to be able to gather information online to do well in higher education settings. And in fact, some research has found that higher levels of access are associated with higher levels of academic achievement. Employment is another example which directly affects an individual's ability to access essential health-related material resources and may be affected by digital access in terms of an individual's ability to find and maintain employment. Digital access is vital for searching and applying for jobs. Also, having digital skills makes you a more competitive applicant for many positions. Finally, some research suggests that digital access may increase your likelihood of hearing informally about work-related opportunities through social contacts. In conclusion, patterns of digital access may impact patterns of health outcomes as both are shaped by existing patterns of social exclusion. The approach I've presented here today aims to do two things: understand digital inequality as rooted in the disproportionate distribution of capital and situate the relationship in terms of structure-oriented approach to understanding the health gradient and the ways digital access may impact health outcomes. Thank you very much for your time.